The bridge went under, before Beatrice Rowan had finished, asking the stage driver to wait. One moment, the center span shuddered beneath a load of spring runoff. The next, timbers rolled away in brown water, while the stage dwindled around the bend without her. The driver had set her trunk beneath an abandoned toll shed, pointed toward a freight camp half a mile uphill, and said another coach might come after the road reopened. Then he had snapped the reins. Rain slipped under her wool collar. In the trunk were $36, letters from her younger sister Lucy, and a train ticket east that Bea had no intention of using. She followed the smell of wood smoke to a ring of wet stones beside 3 horses and 6-pack mules. One tall man crouched there, turning a blackened coffee pot with a forked stick. Bea stopped outside the circle of firelight. Voice nearly failed her. "May I warm up by your fire?" The man looked first at her face, then at the road behind her, then at the trunk she had left under the shed. "You may," he said. "Fire belongs to the freight camp. Coffee's mine and it's poor, but you may have that too." He moved his bedroll from the driest log and set it on the ground for her. He did not come closer. Gabriel Cole. Beatrice Rowan. "Are you waiting for the next stage, Miss Rowan?" "I'm going to Red Pine." His expression changed so slightly, she might have missed it without years of watching customers decide whether a woman understood the business in front of her. "Not by the wagon road," he said. "Hensley Bridge lost its middle at noon." "I noticed. Red Pine Creek will take the lower trail by morning. The North Pack route might hold another 3 days. Then I need the North route." He poured coffee into a tin cup, rinsed a second cup with boiling water, and handed it to her by the rim. "Why?" Bea took Lucy's latest letter from inside her coat. The paper had been folded until its edges softened. "My sister works at the Dyer boarding house. She wrote that the mine may close, and Mr. Dyer has begun holding workers' mail against advances. Her last line said, 'If you can come before the thaw, come.'" Gabriel's gaze settled on the letter, but not its words. "How old is she?" 19. "Then she can leave if she chooses. Not if Dyer keeps her wages and tells every teamster she owes him. That can make leaving hard." He fed a split branch to the fire. "It cannot tell me whether she wants to." The sentence irritated Bea because it resembled a question she had refused to ask herself. "I did not travel from Helena to debate my sister's grammar." "No, you traveled to cross a mountain." Rain hissed in the coals. He would help her survive the night. Whether he would help her reach Lucy was another question. He could guide her to Red Pine for $8, half now and half on arrival. She would have her own shelter and could turn back at Mason's station with the weekly mail rider. "And if the North Trail fails," Bea asked, "we return." Even if Lucy is on the other side, a mountain does not become passable, because the reason is good. She set $4 beside his cup. "I grew up at a ferry," she said. "I can read a crossing, tie a sweep, and handle a frightened mule. I will not be baggage." For the first time, his mouth hinted at a smile. "Good," Gabriel said. I have enough baggage." Before dawn she packed Lucy's letters, one dress, spare stockings, a sewing roll, and her father's brass ferry whistle. Everything else remained locked in the toll shed. Gabriel watched her leave the trunk behind. "That coat will not survive 3 days of rain," he said. "It only has to survive until Red Pine." "That," he replied, "is what people say just before the weather collects an extra day." He offered her the lead rope of the calmest mule instead of taking it himself. Bea wrapped the rope around her gloved hand correctly. At sunrise, the two of them turned north, away from the broken bridge, and toward the mountain that held her sister. The north route climbed through soaked timber above a creek loud with snowmelt. Gabriel stopped hourly to check cinches and clear the mule's shoes. Bea had expected silence from a man who lived mostly among livestock. Instead, he spoke to the animals in complete sentences and argued with a gray mule named Bishop about the moral difference between caution and laziness. "Does he often win?" Bea asked. Bishop. Phew. Gabriel considered. "He has seniority." She laughed before she could decide not to. At noon, they reached a shelf where the trail had slumped toward the creek. Gabriel dismounted and studied the exposed roots. "We unload," he said. "The shelf is solid at the inner wall." It was, yesterday. Bea pressed her heel into the mud and watched water seep around it. At her father's ferry, bank failures had begun the same way, clear water appearing where the earth should have held. "Not there," she said. "The spring is cutting behind the wall. Put a loaded mule on it, and the whole inner edge may peel away." Gabriel crouched where she pointed. He pushed a willow switch into the mud. It vanished nearly to his wrist. "You are right." He said it without reluctance. Together they shifted the loads and led the animals one at a time across a line nearer the drop, where old stone lay under the mud. Bea went first with Bishop because the mule trusted her rope hand. Gabriel did not seize the lead when Bishop shied. He steadied the pack from behind and let Bea settle the animal. On the far side, he handed her the route notebook. "Mark the seep. Your contractor trusts my handwriting. My contractor trusts arriving mules. I trust what I watched." It was their first delegated thing. That evening they reached Mason's Station, a public shelter with separate bunk rooms and a kitchen kept by Mrs. Finch. Bea could have left with the mail rider in the morning. Gabriel reminded her before she paid for supper. "The road south is still open from here. Are you hoping I take it?" "No." His answer came too quickly to be courteous and too plainly to be flirtation. "Then, why mention it?" "Because an option does no good if only one person remembers it." Mrs. Finch overheard and snorted. "Cole remembers every road out of a place. Never met a man so devoted to departures." Gabriel carried his bowl to the far table. Bea later held a lantern while Gabriel repaired a pack frame. "Mrs. Finch says you never winter in the same valley. She charges extra for biography." His smile appeared, then disappeared. "My father kept promising we would settle after the next drive. He died on the trail near Ogden. I discovered promises made by moving men tend to keep moving. So you stopped making them. Stopped asking people to wait." Bea thought of Lucy's letters. After their mother died, Bea had arranged Lucy's schooling, Lucy's employment, Lucy's rooms. She had called each arrangement temporary and each decision necessary. Lucy had been 15 when Bea began choosing for both of them. "Sometimes the harm is trusting the wrong person while you wait," Bea said. Gabriel pulled the rawhide tight. "And sometimes it is refusing to imagine someone choosing differently." At breakfast, a mail rider brought news that a slide had blocked the direct trail ahead. The only remaining route crossed the upper fork twice and descended through an abandoned charcoal camp. Mrs. Finch advised them to wait 4 days. Gabriel looked at Bea. "Sure, decision. Waiting is safer. Moving tomorrow may save a day or cost 3. The old bee would have heard only Lucy's plea and commanded movement. Instead, she asked Mrs. Finch how quickly the upper fork was rising, inspected Gabriel's map, and walked to the creek gauge cut into the bridge piling. "We leave at first light," she said. "If the water rises 2 inches by noon, we turn back without argument." Gabriel nodded. Without argument. It was the first condition she set that another adult accepted without trying to improve it for her. The upper fork looked harmless at dawn. That was its danger. Sit spread shallow and silver across a gravel bar, no higher than Bishop's knees. Gabriel chose a diagonal line toward a stand of cottonwoods. Bea watched foam collect behind 3 half-buried rocks and saw the current bend back toward the near bank. "Your line ends in a hole," she said. Gabriel studied the surface. The map shows a shelf. The river moved. Since last season. Since yesterday, perhaps. She looped her father's brass whistle around her neck. 1 blast to stop, 2 to pull, 3 for danger. Bea walked upstream with a measuring pole until she found the tongue of smooth water that marked a firm channel. Gabriel followed on the bank, not crowding her judgment. "We string a hand line," she said. "Empty mule first. Packs by rope. No rider. That takes 2 hours. A drowned mule takes longer." He looked once toward the mountain, then began untying loads. Gabriel rigged the high line. Bea chose the angle and called each movement with the whistle. When Bishop balked, she loosened the rope and let the mule find its feet. On the last trip, a bay mare lost the gravel bottom and swung downstream. Gabriel stepped into deeper water to reach her halter. No, Bea's whistle cut through the river. He stopped. She shifted the downstream line, gave the mare room to turn her head, and used the current to bring her into the slack water behind the bar. Gabriel followed her order, though every muscle in him resisted stillness. The mare came out trembling but unhurt. On the far bank, Gabriel sat on a rock and poured water from his boots. "My instinct was wrong," he said. "Your instinct was quick. That is not the same thing." "No." She expected defensiveness. He only nodded. They reached the abandoned charcoal camp near dusk. A roofless work shed gave shelter from the wind, but not the sky. Gabriel built 2 small fires, one beneath the shed for Bea, one near the animals for himself. "You can put your bedroll here," she said, pointing to the opposite wall. "The roof is gone. Privacy is mostly ambition. You do not owe me warmer ground. I am not paying a debt. I am revising an inefficient arrangement." He moved his bedroll inside. They ate while rain ticked on a sheet of iron. No crisis required conversation. Gabriel described Bishop invading a funeral for cake. Bea recalled Lucy, charging a penny to perform Shakespeare badly. Their laughter filled the roofless shed. When it faded, Gabriel asked, "Why did she go to Red Pine?" "I found her a position with a dressmaker in Helena. She lasted 6 weeks. She said every seam made her feel buried. Mr. Dyer advertised for a boarding house assistant and promised wages. Hugh opposed it. I knew mining camps." "Did she?" "Not enough." "That was not my question." Bea stared at the fire. She chose it. The admission felt disloyal to her own fear. Gabriel did not tell her what it meant. He handed her the last piece of dried apple and went to check the animals. Near midnight, hoofbeats approached. A young rider entered the camp with blood on one sleeve and a red pine badge pinned inside his coat. "Cole," he asked. "Dyer sent me. The lower footbridge is cracking. Camp wants every pack animal you have." Gabriel rose. "For what?" "Evacuation, maybe. Or supplies." "Nobody agrees." The rider saw Bea and hesitated. "Foreman Vic says the mine stays open until the inspector arrives. She is keeping every able worker in camp. Your sister says that may turn a bad bridge into a locked gate." "Miss Rowan." Her heart struck once hard. "Your sister told me if I found you, I was to say this exactly: do not come to fetch me. Come ready to listen." Red Pine occupied a narrow bench above 2 converging creeks. Ore sheds and cabins crowded the slope. The boarding house stood nearest the footbridge, its kitchen chimney pouring smoke into low cloud. Lucy came out before Bea dismounted. She was thinner than in Bea's memory, her dark hair pinned beneath a red scarf. She embraced Bea fiercely, then stepped back before Bea could inspect her like an injury. "You came." "Of course I came. Hack what belongs to you." Lucy's face closed. Gabriel led the mules toward the public corral, giving the sisters distance. "I told Peter to say listen," Lucy said. "I crossed 2 rivers to listen after you are safe." "I am safe. Dyer holds your wages. He holds everyone's wages. The company stopped paying him for meals 3 months ago." Harlan Dyer emerged carrying potatoes. Gray-bearded and limping, he did not resemble the villain Bea had constructed from paper. "Miss Rowan," he said, "your sister owes me nothing. I owe her $41. I do not have it. Then she leaves. She may." Lucy folded her arms. "And 42 boarders eat what?" Bea stared at her. "That is not your obligation. It became mine when Mrs. Dyer took fever and I began running the kitchen. The company had bought meals on credit, then threatened closure. Dyer borrowed against his house and delayed mail to keep the cookhouse open." "You had no right," Bea said. "No," Dyer replied. "I had flour." Lucy led Bea to the pantry. The shelves held enough for perhaps 6 days. "The footbridge connects the camp to the wagon road," Lucy said. "If it goes, food cannot come in. If everyone leaves at once, the upper trail will choke, with families and no shelter. Then you leave first." "Because I am yours." The words landed where anger could not protect Bea. Lucy softened, but did not retreat. "I asked you to come because Dyer listens to men who own animals and officials who hold paper. He does not listen to a 19-year-old cook. I need you to help make terms. I do not need you to carry me away." Outside, Gabriel found the footbridge cable frayed and the deck twisting. He could preserve his contractor's mules by leaving or risk them in an evacuation. Dyer offered double freight wages from money he did not yet possess. Gabriel said, "I do not sell promises twice." "Then take ore shares." "The mine may close." "Then take my house." "No," Gabriel said. "The animals work tomorrow under a 1-day camp agreement. Food and children first. No debt against the house. After that, we decide again." He looked toward Bea, not for permission, but acknowledgement that the route they had contracted had changed. "You were hired to take me here," she said. "And I did. Your second half." She gave him $4. He accepted it. Their original obligation ended cleanly. The release frightened her. The camp meeting divided quickly. Dyer wanted evacuation. Unpaid miners refused to abandon viable ore. Mothers wanted food moved first. Foreman Amos Vick insisted an inspector would arrive within 3 days. Vick was not merely guarding the company. He had put 11 years into Red Pine, and his widowed sister kept 3 children on the wages he sent east. The inspector found an empty camp. The investors could call, the mine abandoned, and refused the last payroll. She wanted the bridge open, because delay might save 40 livelihoods. He also wanted the danger borne by people who had not agreed to it. Lucy stood beside the stove and named the ration count. Nobody interrupted her. Bea realized her sister had authority here. Not enough, not protected, but earned. When Vic ordered the bridge kept open, Bea heard herself say, "My father ran a ferry for 20 years. That bridge does not have 3 days." Vic looked her over. "And you are." "The woman telling you the water has already cut behind the east abutment." Gabriel did not endorse her or speak for her. He moved aside so everyone could see the muddy line she had drawn on the floor. Creek, bridge, upper trail, charcoal camp, Mason's station. Bea proposed an inspection at first light. Lucy proposed something harder. And after the inspection, she said, We decide who leaves first, without pretending the strongest men are the only lives that count. By morning the creek had risen 7 inches. Bea tied a rope around her waist and examined the bank from shore while Gabriel anchored the line. The bridge's east cable still held, but the buried anchor log shifted each time a wave struck the abutment. "No loaded crossing," she said. "People one at a time until noon. Then, close it." Vic objected. "The inspector comes by that road. Then he waits. Few have no office." Water did not ask for one. The camp split around the argument. Dyer backed immediate closure. Vic demanded the bridge remain open. Lucy asked Bea whether an empty handcart could cross with sacks of flour. "Twice," Bea said. "Perhaps 3 times. Not while people are on it." They began a disciplined exchange. Families from the roadside crossed into camp to collect belongings while miners carried food the other direction for storage at the charcoal shed. Gabriel organized the mules without assuming command of the bridge. Lucy kept names and ration shares on a flour board. At 11, Peter arrived from Mason's station with a telegram copy. The mine inspector had delayed. More important, the contractor who owned Gabriel's mule delivery ordered him to bring the animals south immediately. If he missed the rail transfer, he would forfeit his season's pay and the bond he had saved for 3 years. Bea found him reading the message behind the corral. "You should go," she said. "The camp needs the animals." "The camp is not your contract. Neither are you now." The words were true and sharper than he intended. Gabriel folded the telegram. "I can take the mules south before the upper fork rises. Or I can stay and move families to Mason's. I cannot do both. You always finish the drive." "Yes. Even when finishing is only another way to leave." His eyes lifted to hers. "Do not make my living into a wound because you dislike my answer." Bea flushed. She had crossed a line he had not offered. "You are right," she said. "I am sorry." It was not a graceful apology. Stiets was accurate. At noon, Vic tried to bring a 2-horse ore wagon across before Bea closed the bridge. The wagon carried the best sample from the lower seam, the proof he believed could save the mine. The first horse stepped onto the planks. The anchor log rolled half out of the bank. Bea blew 3 blasts on the brass whistle. Gabriel moved before anyone else, cutting the traces while miners pulled the horses backward. The unloaded wagon remained on the bridge. The east cable snapped. Wood turned sideways in the water. The wagon, half the deck, and Vic's inspection papers disappeared around the bend. Vic stared after the ore box. His gamble had cost the camp its bridge, and perhaps its strongest evidence. Families were separated from belongings and kin. The upper pack trail became the only exit. Then Lucy showed Bea a second message that had arrived in Peter's coat. The county warned that an unsafe finding would close Red Pine until summer. No public freight would cover private debts. "This is why I asked you to come," Lucy said. "Not to take me first. To help us leave without making the weakest pay for everyone else." Bea looked at the map and understood the true problem. The upper trail could handle Gabriel's mules and perhaps 20 people per day. Red Pine held 68 residents, plus tools, blankets, medicine, and food. Spring water might erase the route within 48 hours. One clean rescue was impossible. Gabriel entered the kitchen and set his telegram on the stove. "I am staying 2 days," he said. "After that, the contractor may own my bond, but not my choice." Bea felt hope, then fear of what his sacrifice might demand from her. He saw it. "Miss Rowan," he said quietly, "I am not buying a future. I am hiring out 6 mules to a camp for no promise of payment. And if you lose the bond, then the loss belongs to the choice I made. It does not belong to you. Lucy placed the flower board between them. Good, she said, because I have work for all three of us. They moved 16 children and 8 adults to the charcoal camp on the first day. Bea selected loads by weight, not by who shouted loudest. Gabriel assigned one experienced handler to every 2 mules. Lucy packed food in equal bundles and refused 3 miners who tried to hide tools beneath blankets. A drill will not catch fever, she told them. Mrs. Dyer might. Before dawn, Mrs. Dyer's fever worsened. Lucy chose to return to Red Pine with medicine. I will go with you, Bea said. No, you are needed at the upper ford. Lucy. She came ready to listen. Bea wanted to forbid the return and make love sound like authority. Instead, she asked, what is your plan if the trail closes? Peter stays with me. We keep 1 mule. If the water rises past the red rock, we leave. And if Mrs. Dyer cannot ride, we use the litter poles Gabriel cut. Bea looked at Gabriel. He disliked the plan. She could see it in the way he checked the same buckle twice. The red rock is a sound limit, he said. I will not pretend otherwise, because I would rather you stay. Lucy embraced Bea. That is what listening looks like. After she left, Bea and Gabriel tested the upper ford and marked a safer line. For 1 hour there was no crowd, no argument, and no sister to save. Gabriel skipped stones badly. You guide animals across half a continent. How can you fail at 1 stone? Stones are secretive. She demonstrated. His second attempt skipped twice. She found herself smiling at him with no gratitude in it. He sat beside her, leaving space. What did you want before Lucy needed you? He asked. The question felt indecently intimate. A ferry of my own, Bea said. Not a grand one. A rope ferry where the river bends below Helena. My father promised me a share, then sold it to pay his medical debts. After he died, Lucy needed schooling. And after schooling, she needed work. And after work, Bea picked up another stone. There was always an after. Gabriel nodded, as though he understood the shape of a life postponed by reasonable needs. My bond was for land, he said. 20 acres near Stevensville. Enough pasture for winter. I kept saving, but each drive offered better money if I went farther. Did you want the land? He considered longer than the question required. I wanted proof I could stop. That is not the same thing. No. Gabriel turned his palm upward. Bea placed her fingers in his. The brief touch solved nothing. That was why it mattered. Before they rose, he found a flat green stone and pressed it into her palm. For practice, he said. At ferries. At keeping one thing that serves no purpose. Bea skipped it. The stone crossed the surface 4 times and disappeared. Gabriel looked wounded. You have misunderstood the assignment. She laughed hard enough to waste breath. For several minutes, she was simply pleased to be beside him. A whistle sounded from the trail, 2 blasts, the signal to pull. They ran. At the bend, Peter and Lucy struggled with a mule, carrying Mrs. Dyer on the litter. The red rock was already underwater. Behind them, a fresh slide had closed the trail to Red Pine. Gabriel took the rear pole. Bea took the front and directed the angle through the mud. Lucy steadied Mrs. Dyer and called each step. They reached the charcoal camp after dark. The route to Red Pine was gone. 18 people remained trapped in the town, including Dyer and Vic. Lucy gave Bea a damp packet she had taken from the boarding house stove. Inside were the workers' withheld letters. Dyer told me to burn them if he did not come out, Lucy said. He says sending them now will bring families to a closed camp. I say people own the truth about those they love. Bea looked toward Mrs. Dyer, shivering beneath blankets. For once, no root on the ground, was harder than the choice in her hands. Bea wanted the letters sent immediately. Lucy wanted each worker to decide about his own. Gabriel wanted to return to Red Pine before the creek rose again and bring out the remaining people. All three positions were reasonable. Together, they could still cause harm. At Mason Station, Bea arranged the letters in dry rows. Some contained wage demands. Some held news of sick parents, births, and overdue rent. One envelope, already opened by Dyer, said a miner's wife planned to bring 2 children west as soon as he sent fare. If she travels now, she meets a closed road, Lucy said. If we hold it, we become Dyer, Bea replied. They compromised. Sealed letters went untouched. Opened letters traveled with a notice that Red Pine was evacuating. Gabriel prepared 3 mules for Red Pine. Bea blocked the corral gate. The slide is moving. There is an old cattle traverse above it. Marked unsafe on your own map. Saintfins for a train. Possible for 3 animals. You promised 2 days of evacuation here, and 18 people are still there. You cannot repair every duty by adding another. Nor can you protect every person by deciding they must wait. The accusation struck because it was true. Gabriel's contractor had sent another telegram. If he departed immediately with the mules, the man would return half the bond. Gabriel had refused. Now he meant to risk the animals and lose everything he had saved. Bea believed his rescue attempt would fail. Gabriel believed leaving 18 people without animals was a quieter failure. If you go, she said, I will not follow. He met her eyes. Shy, no. There was no manipulation in his answer. That made the separation harder. Lucy gave Gabriel the brass whistle. Bea caught her wrist. That was Father's. It is yours, Lucy said, and he needs it. Bea released her. Gabriel took the whistle only after Bea nodded. I will return it. Do not make promises because you like the sound of them. Pain crossed his face. Then I will say this, I intend to return. You owe me no waiting. And if you do return, his hand tightened once around the lead rope. I would like there to be something worth asking for. I will not ask before I have done the returning. He left with Peter and 2 miners. Both proved partly right. The traverse was worse than Gabriel admitted, but he found Dyer's group with an injured man they could not move without mules. At Mason Station, Bea made her own costly choice. The upper ford was rising too fast for repeated crossings. Her first plan, to guide small parties over the gravel bar, would strand half the evacuees. She went downstream and found the remains of an old cable ferry, 2 buried anchor stones, a length of rusted guide wire, and a flat-bottomed scow drawn into brush. Mrs. Finch said the scow had not floated in 6 years. Bea inspected the seams. The planks were sound under the moss, but the caulking had dried. We can repair it with oakum and pitch, she said. Before tomorrow, Lucy asked, if every person here works. The plan consumed winter tar, male coral rope, and 2 bunk frames. Bea offered $36, the money once meant for her own ferry. Mrs. Finch pushed half back. I charge travelers, she said. I do not sell them their own rescue. They worked through the night. Bea delegated. Lucy heated pitch. Mrs. Dyer twisted oakum and children scraped moss. At dawn, the repaired scow took water, but slowly. Across the ford, a whistle sounded once. Stop. Then 3 times. Danger. Gabriel's party had reached the far bank with Dyer and the remaining camp residents. Behind them, the cattle traverse collapsed into the creek. They had no way back, except the ferry Bea had not yet proved would float. Bea tested the scow with sacks of wet sand. It rode low but steady. The old guide wire could not bear the current, so she rigged a high safety line and an angled working rope. The scow would carry 4 adults or 1 mule. Gabriel watched from across the river while Bea gave orders. He did not shout corrections. When she signaled for the far rope to be moved higher, he moved it. The first load carried children and the injured miner, while Lucy bailed and Bea held the bow angled. Later trips carried Dyer, 2 women, and Vic. The oar proves the lower seam is sound, he told Bea. The river does not care. The county might. The box weighed nearly as much as a child, but it represented 40 people's hope of wages. Bea sent it alone on an empty return trip. By afternoon, only Gabriel, Peter, and 3 mules remained on the far side. The river had risen against the scow's upstream edge. One more animal crossing might break the working rope. Gabriel could abandon the mules. 2 belonged to his contractor. 1, Bishop, was his. He sent the contractor's animals first. On the next pull, the working rope frayed. "Leave Bishop," Bea called. Gabriel stood with one hand on the mule's neck. Bishop had traveled with him for 9 years. Abandoning the mule would be another departure Gabriel forced upon himself, because chosen pain felt honorable. She changed the plan. "Take the high line off the scow," she ordered. "Make a swimming lead." Bishop crosses upstream without the boat. "Current is too hard," Dyer said. "Not if the scow breaks it." She placed the empty scow upstream as a moving shield, while Gabriel entered the water beside Bishop. He did not mount. Peter managed the line from shore. Lucy and the camp hauled together. Halfway across, the working rope snapped. The scow swung broadside. Bea jammed the sweep against the gravel bottom and felt the handle split. Gabriel released Bishop's halter before the mule could drag him under. For one terrible second, man and animal separated in brown water. Bea blew 2 blasts on the spare tin whistle Lucy had made. Pull. Everyone on shore hauled the safety rope. The scow turned enough to create slack water. Bishop found gravel. Gabriel caught the trailing line, not the mule, trusting the animal to reach the bank. All 3 came ashore. Gabriel knelt beside Bishop, forehead against the wet gray neck. Bea turned away to give him privacy he had not asked for but deserved. When he rose, he returned her brass whistle. "You were right about the traverse," he said. "You were right that they needed the mules." Neither truth canceled the other. 2 days later, the mine inspector declared Red Pine unsafe until its bridge and drainage were rebuilt. Vic's oar showed the mine might remain profitable, but families could not be made to wait without wages. Dyer admitted withholding mail and offered the boarding house as security. Lucy demanded that he surrender the mail and accounts instead. If Red Pine reopened, a 3-person committee would direct future payments toward old wages, while Mrs. Dyer retained rooms and a kitchen wage. Bea looked at her sister and saw no girl waiting to be carried home. Dyer accepted. Vic did not. He offered Lucy a paid place at a new camp in Idaho if she left the committee, and testified that Dyer alone caused the closure. Lucy asked for 1 night to decide. Bea wanted to tell her no. This time she kept silent long enough for Lucy to speak. "I may take it," Lucy said. "Not because you failed to save me. Because I want to see another mountain." Bea's heart resisted. Her love did not. "Then we will examine the terms," she said. "And you will choose." Across the yard, Gabriel heard her. The look he gave Bea held more intimacy than a declaration. Lucy accepted the Idaho position after changing its terms. Her wages would be paid weekly. Her mail would remain sealed. She could leave after any month without owing travel costs. Mrs. Finch witnessed the agreement. Bea helped write it, then did something harder. She did not sign for her sister. Gabriel's contractor took the bond and barred him from future work. The loss was legal. He had delivered the mules late. "Will you contest it?" Bea asked. No, he warned me clearly. You could explain. Explanation is not payment. He intended to hire on as a ranch hand. Accept the cost, find another trail, ask no one to wait. Bea could run Mrs. Finch's ferry or return to Helena. Lucy no longer needed her protection. That evening, she found Gabriel beside the ferry scow, replacing the broken sweep handle. He had planed the bunk frame wood smooth where her hands would grip it. You repaired something you do not own, she said. Shipped, I have a weakness for questionable transportation. And departures. Set down the plane. Yes. Bea sat on the overturned tar barrel. When you stayed, I feared you would make your sacrifice into a claim. I know. When you went back to Red Pine, I thought you had chosen danger because it let you avoid choosing a life. That was partly true. I used Lucy's need to postpone my own decisions, Bea said. Then I called every decision I made for her love. That was partly love. Partly. The word held both mercy and accountability. Vic had offered Gabriel work, leading a pack service to Idaho, under written weight and weather limits. He still believed Red Pine needed faster freight than Bea's rules would allow. Will you take it? Bea asked. Only if the route includes the ferry until the bridge is rebuilt. And only if the person running the ferry has authority to close the crossing. Mrs. Finch offered me that position. I know. Did you ask her too? No. She continued. I told Vic I would not sign unless the ferryman or ferrywoman could halt the route without losing wages. C called it impractical. It is expensive. So are funerals. What made him agree? Gabriel looked toward Bishop. The route offered a delivery bonus. I surrendered my claim to it for the first year. That money becomes delay pay when the crossing closes. Bea went still. The bonus might have rebuilt his lost bond. You gave away your best chance at land. I bought no right to your answer. I bought the right to mean what I said about safe water. Gabriel had not given Bea one road. He had helped make room for several. I will take the ferry through summer, she said. No promise beyond the first freeze. Good. You sound pleased. I am trying not to bargain with happiness. She laughed softly. Then she asked, if you take the route, where will you sleep? Mason's bunkhouse. Red Pine cookhouse when it reopens. Camps elsewhere. And when you are here, where Mrs. Finch assigns me. Bea stepped closer. You may court me while you are here. Gabriel's breath caught, but he did not reach for her. Under what terms? No promises, made only because leaving is frightening. No departures arranged only because staying is. Difficult terms. I learned from a mule contractor. He smiled. May I kiss you? Yes. The kiss was warm, restrained, and brief enough to leave the future unclaimed. When they separated, Gabriel rested his forehead near hers without touching. I have wanted to do that since the charcoal camp, he said. Few concealed it admirably. Bishop knew. Bishop mistakes appetite for revelation. At dawn, the county weighed a fast temporary bridge against a slower licensed ferry with closure authority. Bea recommended the ferry for one season, while engineers studied an upstream site. Gabriel supported her, though a bridge meant more freight income. Vic opposed her, though he accepted the safety logic. The ferry won by one vote. No one applauded. That was how Bea knew the decision had cost something real. By midsummer, Bea's ferry had carried families, mules, a printing press, and one furious goat. Her chalkboard listed water height and load limits. Travelers argued, the river decided. The mine reopened late under Lucy's committee system. Lucy had gone to Idaho. Her sealed letters praised the work, condemned the coffee, and made no promise to stay. Bea answered without instructions. Gabriel obeyed the ferry schedule, even when delay cost him. Bea once opened for medicine under a second safety rope and later refused profitable machinery. He accepted both judgments. Their courtship grew through shared breakfasts, arguments about Bishop, stone skipping, and one station yard dance. Gabriel still checked roads out of habit. Bea still formed instructions before questions. Neither flaw vanished. Now they noticed sooner. At the first cold rain, Vic offered them a 2-year pack route charter with an annual review. Bea would govern crossings. Gabriel would manage animals. Their wages and savings remained separate. Either could leave the work after a season, but neither could erase the other's authority. While the charter remained, Mrs. Finch offered Bea the ferry for another year. Both futures were honorable. Neither required Gabriel. Bea walked to Willow Cut, where the old freight fire burned again beside the rebuilt toll shed. Her trunk still stood inside, dust on its lid. She opened it and found the dresses she had abandoned, dry and useless to the woman she had become. Gabriel arrived leading Bishop. "You found my fire," he said. "Freight camp's fire," she corrected. Still correcting me. "It is the foundation of our affection." On the log he had offered her in the rain, Bea said she would take the Idaho route for 1 season, to see Lucy's chosen life and learn 3 new rivers. After the season, he asked, "We decide then. I can live with an honest unknown." She showed her the charter. Bea crossed out a clause allowing the mine superintendent to overrule a closure. He will object. Then he may keep his route. Gabriel took the pencil and struck the same clause from his copy. Then he may keep both of us. Then he took a small iron key from his pocket. "Mrs. Finch says the toll shed belongs to the route. 1 key for each route master. Is this a proposal?" "It is a key." "Good answer." Bea accepted it. Then she closed his fingers around the other key. "This is not a proposal either," she said. "But when we return from Idaho before the first heavy snow, ask me whether I want to marry you." Hope made Gabriel look more defenseless than hardship ever had. "And if the season goes badly, ask me then too." "I am choosing the question, Gabriel, not promising that life will become easy. May I tell you what answer I hope for? You may spend the whole road earning the courage." They sent her old dresses to Mrs. Dyer. Bea kept the whistle and Lucy's letters. Bea banked the fire and left dry wood for the next traveler. Public fires survived through strangers who owed one another nothing. At the fork above Willow Cut, the left trail led toward Helena and the fixed ferry. The right climbed toward Idaho Lucy and rivers Bea had never seen. Gabriel stopped Bishop between them. "Which road?" he asked. He did not hold out a hand to lead her. He gave her the rope. Bea took it, turned Bishop toward the right-hand trail, and began walking. Gabriel fell into step beside her, not ahead, not behind. After 100 yards, she looked back at the thin line of smoke rising from the freight camp. "Was I wrong to let Lucy go?" she asked. Gabriel considered the question, with the seriousness he gave dangerous water. "I think you were right to let her choose," he said. "That does not mean her choice will be right. It was not comfort. It was better." Bea faced the road again. The lonely mountain cowboy had paid to keep her authority real, turned when leaving was easier, and respected every road she might take. Bea changed the rest herself. She chose the mountain. She chose the work. And, with a winter question waiting honestly ahead of them, she chose the man walking beside her. Bea helped give Lucy the freedom to choose a risky future, even though protecting her had shaped Bea's whole life. Was she right to step back, or should family sometimes intervene when love can see danger more clearly? Share which side you believe the story earned.